So today we're going to be talking about the art and science of nurse recruitment and retention. My name is Iman Abuzaid. I'm an MD by background. I've been in technology for the last 10 years of my career. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Incredible Health, which is the fastest growing marketplace for permanent healthcare workers. Hospitals and health systems use our software to hire nurses in permanent roles in 20 days or less. We flipped the script where hospitals and health systems apply to nurses instead of the other way around. Joining us today is Usrah Hamzie. Usrah is the Chief Nursing Officer at CHA Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center. CHA Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center is one of the first hospitals in Los Angeles and the first hospital in the Hollywood area. Today, it's a 434-bed acute care facility with more than 500 positions, representing pretty much every specialty. As an accomplished nursing leader, Usrah has extensive experience and expertise in clinical operations and in leadership. She, earlier in her career, she was a clinical supervisor in the emergency department at CHA HPMC, where she spent over 20 years in various leadership positions. Throughout her career, Usrah has demonstrated outstanding leadership skills and a strong commitment to patient safety and advancing clinical excellence. We're thrilled to have you here today, Usrah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. So this is designed to be an interactive discussion. For everyone who's attended the webinar live, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We're going to answer them as we go along, and we'll have time at the end dedicated for questions too. And this webinar is being recorded, and so a member of the Incredible Health team will be in touch afterwards with the recording. So today we're going to be covering a few different topics. We'll be covering the state of the nurse labor market today, the evolution of challenges and impacts for nurse hiring and for nurse retention. We'll be hearing from Usrah some of the details and plans that they have in place and strategies they have in place for both nurse retention and for nurse hiring. And then there will be time for a Q&A. All right, so let's start with a market overview. So we are on track to be we are all experiencing a nursing shortage. 1 in 8 Americans in the U.S. works in healthcare. Our demand for healthcare as a country continues to increase because our population is aging. And so that is putting more and more demand on the healthcare system. But as a country, we haven't done an amazing job of increasing the number of healthcare workers that we need to meet that demand. Healthcare has been the #1 employment sector in the U.S. since 2018, but it is also the sector with the biggest labor shortages in the country, with nursing being the #1 labor shortage. This is a national problem that is expected to keep getting worse. We're on track to be 1 million nurses short by the end of this decade. The annual acute care nurse turnover nationally is at 22.5%. Labor as a percentage of revenue is at 48%. That's a metric from publicly traded hospitals. And so that means labor expenses continues to increase, not just from temporary labor costs, but also the permanent nursing labor. The wages keep going up because there is a shortage. And then finally, the days to hire for a permanent specialized nurse role in an acute care setting is currently at 95 days, which is a very long time. This is just one quick study we have from the Incredible Health platform. So 1 in 4 nurses in the US uses Incredible Health to manage their careers. And so when they are creating their profiles on our site and in our apps, we're often asking them, why are you considering leaving your current job? The #1 reason by far that's selected is I'm looking to advance my career. That can mean I'm looking to specialize more or expand my skills. It can mean moving into management. It can also mean cross-training or a new graduate trying to specialize further. So advancing their career is by far the #1 reason. The second most common reason for why nurses are looking to leave their current role is they're looking for a more flexible schedule. Nurses, as you know, are covering 5 different generations, from the Gen Z all the way to the baby boomers. Many of them have to care for kids. Some of them are caring for elderly parents. They're looking for more flexibility in their lives and therefore more flexibility in their schedules. The third most common reason is something to do with geography. Either they're trying to reduce their commute time or they're trying to relocate to a different state altogether to pursue different opportunities. there's quite a lot of movement in the permanent nurse labor market. On our marketplace, 1/3 of the hires are nurses that are relocating from a different state. And then the fourth most common reason is looking for higher compensation. We work with many nursing leaders and HR leaders across the country. There's a lot of focus and emphasis on the compensation piece, but we are seeing that nursing leaders and HR leaders that are focusing on number 1 and 2, career advancement, as well as offering more flexible schedules, tend to hire more and also tend to retain more nurses too. All right. Finally, just wanted to share a little bit of data just from a recent study from earlier this year about what are the main concerns nurses have. Some of their top concerns include concerns with staffing shortages, concerns with burnout, concerns with salary and benefits, their work environment and wanting a more safe work environment, scheduling concerns, and limitations on their career advancement. All right, let us pause here and turn over to Usrah. So welcome again, Usrah. Thanks so much. We just set the stage on the market and what's happening overall. We'd love to hear just from your perspective, what are you seeing as some of the top challenges when it comes to nurse hiring and retention at your facility?
Well, as we can see, not only at Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center, but also across the country, and I believe throughout the industry, recruitment has to be a skill. It's not the status quo anymore that we just put an application out there, we advertise, and that's the end of the story, and expect that candidates are going to come running in. So that continues to play a big part in what we do and how we get nurses in. We also have a challenge just based on COVID. As much as a lot of us don't want to blame COVID, but when COVID came around, not only did we lose a lot of our workforce through, the COVID itself, but we had a lot that retired or just plain out said, this is not for me, and threw the towel in and walked out. So it was a great loss and continues to be a great loss. So that's a big challenge. So recruitment has to be a completely different skill. An organization might have to look at pairing up a nurse recruiter with a recruiter that has nursing background, has had some clinical background, has the skills and expertise to look for the right candidate, making sure that we attract them, and how we also bring them in, and the onboarding. Onboarding is also a big deal as part of recruitment. It's not just getting them in. Now there's a lot of requirements, a lot of things that we have to look at. And so when you bring them in, you want to be able to expedite that process. Another big challenge is you have to remember as a recruiter, which is part of that skill, is to know the fact that when a candidate applies to your organization, they're not only looking at your organization. If they're looking for a job, if they already have a job as an experienced clinician, there's a reason why they want to leave where they are at right now. It's for different reasons. So you want to see what are they looking at, which means they're not only looking at one organization, they've probably put 3 applications out. So the sooner you can get them in, interview them, work on getting them, onboarding them, the faster it is for you, and the better it is instead of risk losing them. The other challenge with recruitment is it's difficult to find experienced nurses. So a lot of us, especially in our organization, we tend to bring new grads in a lot. We are doing quarterly new grad trainings, which is also a challenge, because at times what happens is, so that new grad, for example, let's say it's a new grad going into a specialized area and you're giving them 12 to 16 hours, 16 weeks of training. And after that 16 weeks, it just doesn't stop there. That doesn't mean they become an expert in that area. You want to continue, you have to keep the pulse on them, making sure that they get the right training, they're comfortable in doing, and you as a leader, or even the charge nurses and physicians accountable with this nurse being independent. So it continues, and if you're changing or doing that cycle over and over again every quarter, you're not giving them enough room to grow because you're concentrating on the new ones that are coming in, and in a way neglecting to continue to touch bases with the ones that have just graduated from that program. So that continues to create a challenge for us, and also risk us losing some of those new grads as we bring them on. The younger nurses also, we know that look for, which means it's the new grads, right? New ones coming in. The millennials right now are looking for flexibility of their schedule. Career advancement, which you talked about, as we can see, which is another area that could lead to them exiting the organization sooner than we would want or is expected of them.
Yep. Okay, no, thank you for that overview. So recruiting has to be a skill. There's a challenge with new grads, and not only just hiring them, but also training them. And then there's definitely a generational divide where younger nurses have different expectations from those that have been in the workforce for longer. Thank you. That's a really helpful overview. So how have you seen these challenges evolve over the last few years, and how has it impacted HPMC?
Well, so most of what we have seen is, again, based on what I said, because we do the quarterly onboarding of our new grads, we find that a great number of them, we are the training ground, because maybe they have their eye on an organization they wanted to go to for whatever reason, but that organization is not training, and then they come to us, we train them right after they graduate from that. We usually call it a graduation because we do the whole process for them. It's a very innovative program. We have didactic sessions, and we also have, of course, the clinical preceptorship. And our educators, it's all hands on deck. Our educators are involved, the leaders of the departments are involved, and the frontline staff in getting this. It's like a village coming together to groom these new grads. And then we see them exiting. So it makes it really difficult for us when you have 20-30% of them exiting within that first few months of graduating from the program. So those are the challenges we've had. Some of the other challenges that has actually we've seen over the last 2 years or 3 years, I should say, is because we don't have the bandwidth and the frontline experienced nurses to help us with training and grooming them. We don't have enough. As we bring these people, as we turn them over every quarter, we're realizing that we're shortchanging them. So we're not giving them the a stronger foundation. So we put education, whilst we have that didactic and clinical married together, we're finding that we're also, there's some cracks in some of that process because we can't fill it in. We don't have enough fillers for that. And so we have to be able to filter through and see, do we want these new grads in all at once this time, or should we break it up and do it in pieces? And so we're really reevaluating that right now to see what changes we can make with that.
Okay, got it. So let's just go a little bit deeper into the topic of new graduates. Roughly how many new graduates were you hiring per quarter?
We're doing anywhere from 20 to 30 new grads per quarter.
Okay, and so when they were joining, they were getting both didactic and clinical training. And did you have separate preceptors or separate staff that were doing the training, or was it the same staff?
In some of the cases, it's the same staff. And so that's where the burnout comes in for those staff, because you can't keep doing every, quarter. As much as we have an education department, they also need, the support of the frontline staff. to support on the preceptor level. So we do and 30 or 20 to 30 quarterly, that's a little bit heavy.
It's a lot.
For them. That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so a question came in from Artie Feinstein. They also hire at their facility, they hire a lot of new grads as well. And so her question is like, how do you handle the scenario where you don't have enough good preceptors to train the staff? And do you have a preceptor development program?
Yes, we do have a preceptor development program, which is ongoing, and that's how we're able to meet some of that need. So we're constantly evaluating the preceptors. So part of the new grad is they all have evaluation for their preceptors, because we try to match them with a better fit for their preceptor to make their experience manageable, as well as a better experience for them. And so part of that is we evaluate them. To be a preceptor, you have to go to a preceptor class, which, you know, it's a class that's offered for the preceptors. And then they have to have a competency done. So it's those two things before you can be a preceptor. And obviously, with the evaluations and feedback from the new grads or anyone that's a new hire, helps us to see where we need to, you know, we maybe change our course, or look at how our preceptors are. Right. So when we get those 30 and it becomes a bigger challenge, we make sure that all new grads go through med search first. So they spend at least 4 weeks or 6 weeks sometimes in the med search area before they can advance to the unit that they have an interest in, especially with the monitored floors and the higher specialty areas. So that helps us a lot too with the preceptorship.
Got it. Okay. And so your team was experiencing, I guess, higher turnover than you would have liked in among the new graduates, which, by the way, is a phenomenon that happens all over the country. Right. It's not unique to your facility. What do you think are some of the reasons, underlying reasons for why that turnover is particularly high for the new graduate cohorts?
So I can give you briefly some of the reasons that we have evaluated, and, you know, in getting feedback from them when they ask to exit. Relocation, like you pointed out in some of your slides, we've had some because it's relocation. We've had some for advanced career advancement. We've actually had few that actually just thought that nursing is not for them.
Yeah. So they opted out of the career altogether.
I guess once they get to the clinical area, it becomes, you know, that big eye opener for them, and like, wow, I don't know what I got myself into. And with those, there's nothing you can do about it, right? And then we've had few that just felt like the organization is not the right fit for them. And we do meet with those and encourage them to share more if they're willing. It's, you know, it's we're asking them to try to share as best as they can. Some do share and some don't. And then we address those, the feedback based on what we get, we address it.
Okay, so let's talk about the topic of nurse retention next. You just covered it. You just covered some of the underlying reasons for the new grads, but are you open to sharing sort of your turnover rates or your retention rates for your experienced nurses? And is it where you want it to be?
Our experienced nurses, I can't say it's where we want to be. I mean, we would hope for more. We're looking for that. That's every organization's wish. Of course, most of our the most experienced nurses had to retire, unfortunately, and which is why we are where we are today. We don't have that much of a turnover for our experienced nurses. It's either we retire, well, mostly that's all it is. It's retirement. If they've gone past 5 years, you know they're not going anywhere. Yep. Yeah. So most of that is because of that.
And would you mind giving us like an overview of what your retention strategies are for nursing?
So we're looking at different things, right? We're looking at bonuses, retention bonuses for the experienced nurses, because they also deserve to know that we do pay attention to that. So that's in the works and it's about to be executed shortly. We're also looking at, and we specifically called it retention because we can't just compensate. And so we look at the years of service at the organization, and then we try to get to that middle point or beginning point from where the new grads end, right? And then try to make sure that if a nurse has been with us for 3 years, to me, that's hats off to that person. They actually really want to stay with the organization. And so right there, you want to compensate them. And so that's one thing we're looking at, the retention compensation for those. We're also looking at educational, the advanced career advancement. So we've partnered with some schools, higher education level for nurses. And the majority of them can go for free because we partnered, some of it we work with them and we have a way to compensate that and make it happen for them. So we have those, and of course they're taking advantage of that, which is great. And we love to see that our nurses do want to advance themselves, and so that opportunity is there for them to grab. And also they can go in any other university of their choice. We try to encourage them to go to the ones that we've partnered with to give them discounts as well. So that's been very helpful. Last year, we did see a great number of our nurses took that opportunity. And what we did for them this year is after they graduated by December, we held a session to recognize them. We gave them certificates and little gifts to say, we appreciate you taking the time and acknowledging that you do need this and going through this program and succeeding. So we have that. We're also looking at how we can expand our nursing pool. We're looking at, of course, we use travelers. I mean, whilst travelers are expensive and organizations want to stay away from them, it's difficult to stay away from travelers because they are backfill, right? And most of them are the experienced nurses that don't want to stay in the organization anymore, just want to explore another state outside of where they live. So we use them to be the backfill whilst we're educating our nurses and trying to encourage them to go up. We've also started a float pool, which will help us to have nurses be able to work in all the different areas, so that we're not, because usually when you have a float pool, you only have nurses would only go to one area. And with this, we try to bring nurses in and divide them up through all the specialties we have. The only specialty we haven't included yet is the maternal child health, because that we felt like it's a little bit different and we need to be careful how we bring that in and be able to sustain it. So far that's been helping us a lot, having that float pool where we have nurses that can float to ICU, DOU, all the monitored floors, including med-surg.
Okay. And then
we continue to improve that.
And then what's your philosophy on flexible scheduling?
Oh, flexible schedule. We all know that our nurses would love to have that flexible schedule. Everybody wants that, right? It's the flexible schedule helps you kind of like direct your life. It's kind of like a lifestyle. Everybody needs that and everybody should have that. What we're currently doing is trying to work with the nurses where we've opened up some what we recently did for our mother baby, or not mother baby, our maternal health child health area is we started a callback panel. So that way, if you don't want to work today, you can put yourself to be on call and then we can call you back, which is also a benefit to the schedule for the day, right? If we get a sick call and we don't have a backfill, here's somebody that's on call that you can get in, and that helps them. Maybe they want to pick up an extra shift. Instead of you asking them, they can make a choice to decide on what day they want to work. We also have in the other units, we also have them, give them the opportunity to sign up for 6-hour, 8-hour shifts. So that will help us. And one of the things that's actually very helpful for that we have seen a great benefit of is that person can come in if they're the experienced nurse and they sign up for 6 to 8 hour shifts. We use them as a resource. They come in and they're the resource. They can help with breaks. They can help with the admissions. They can help with discharges. They can just help the department with nurses that are struggling to with just their workload. And so that has proven to be a great help. And we continue to encourage the units that are not taking advantage of that to please look at that and how we can work with your department. We also have the life balance situation, right? Which is the flexible schedule situation. And we encourage them to also pick up, obviously every employee is expected to work there every other weekend, but during the week, they are encouraged to work different shifts so that they don't feel like they're tied into a certain number of hours. Whilst you're full-time, you have to do this number of hours, but we can't just say you can only work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or, if that's what they want to do, then that's something we can entertain.
Okay, great. Question came in from Andy Rocher. What has been the most optimal schedule for nurses? I'm happy to answer that just because we work with many nursing and HR leaders across the country on this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So because Usrah just highlighted what they do specifically at her facility. But essentially, the philosophy is that, the days of 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts, full-time only are over, right? That's what, that used to be one of the only options before COVID. But now, essentially, nursing leaders are increasingly offering a menu of options, a lot of what, like what Usrah just described. You can do 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, 6-hour shifts. Self-scheduling is an option. There is part-time is an option, full-time is an option. Essentially, it's providing a menu of options to nurses that you're trying to hire externally, as well as the nurses that you already have at your facility. And we've seen that offering more flexible scheduling improves retention and also increases hiring too. So that's sort of the overall philosophy that we're seeing across the country. All right, great. And then I'd love to hear a little bit more about your career advancement programs that are internal, right? So do you allow nurses to transition between units, and how do you support nurses in advancing their careers at your facility?
We are for that 200% here at Hollywood Pres. So we do allow our nurses, a lot of our nurses will go to a med-surg tele unit and maybe work there for 6 months to a year. And then they decide, oh, this is too boring and I want to do something better, and they want to move. So we've had, every year we do what is called a transitional program. And so that's another way to help retain our staff. So they apply to that transitional program to the unit of their choice. It could be ICU, it could be a med-surg nurse wanting to go to DOU, it could be a tele nurse wants to go to mother baby or L&D, that kind of stuff. So we do encourage that. As a matter of fact, next month in September, we have a transitional program that we're about to start. And we're looking forward to, it's interesting to see how many people come through asking to go to all these units. We've even had people transfer from the med-surg area or the any of the monitored areas and want to go to ED as well. So usually we take those. Even if it's 1 or 2, it doesn't matter, we'll take them. So they have that path as well. We also have charge nurse trainings. I just did a charge nurse boot camp in the summer. Well, we're still in the summer, in June and July, for all our charge nurses in-house and relief charge nurses. And it's also open to nurses that we see potential that can become charge nurses. We send them to charge nurse training, the basic charge nurse training. They have to get competencies to be a charge nurse so they can actually act in that capacity, as well as they have the buddy program where they can join, be buddied with an experienced charge nurse or relief charge nurse so they can get the experience being a charge nurse. And so we decided this year was my first year in doing the charge nurse boot camp, which we're going to do. We decided we're going to make it annually because it was a success. We made it mandatory and had 100% of our charge nurses and relief charge nurses attend. as well as a makeup for the ones that missed those sessions. So we decided that's going to be an annual thing to help improve our nurses and give them the tools they need to get their jobs done.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned that the turnover of your experienced nurses is in good shape. It's pretty good. What do you think has been like the secret behind achieving that success?
I think one of the biggest thing, what I hear, because again, I know when you introduced me, you let everyone know that I've been here 20 years. I've actually been here 24 years, and thank you. It's a great organization. It has that familial environment. So it's like you want to be where everybody knows your name, right? And
Yep.
so when I walk the halls, I walk the halls, I walk the units. So for me, as Usrah, not just as the CNO, as an employee of the organization, everybody knows me. It's not just nursing. The ancillary staff knows me. Even our vendors. It's because I want them to feel like you are coming into our home. We're going to welcome you. We're going to embrace you. You're a part of us. We're all here as a family to work together. And at the same time, giving the staff that sense of confidence that, you know, you feel like this is your home, you belong here. So we all work together and support each other. And I believe some of that is what's keeping people here. Because I hear a lot of them say, I'm used to the people. I like working here. Because also, if I have a friend of mine that I like doing stuff with, we can work on the same shift so that we can have the same days off and be able to have activities together. So those things are all pluses for us with, I think, some of the secrets we've had here. And in addition to all the other things we've talked about.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Let's turn to the topic of nurse hiring. You have a lot of recruiting leaders on the call as well. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about your hiring strategy and you know how you've thought about nurse hiring for your facility.
So I think recruiters on the line and nursing leaders, any organizations in general, HR people would say that this is a thorn in our sides, right? Hiring hasn't been the easiest. It's not easy, and my hat's off to the recruiters for all the hard work they put in. The sticky side to that is you never know when you're going to get it right. And it's a process that you have to massage and always have to, you massage, you marinate, you look at it, you see how is it going to come, you taste it, you feel it. And so for us at Hollywood Press, I think it's a forever evolving process for us. Sometimes we, in the beginning of this year, for example, we revamped our whole process. We looked at how we onboard, what we need to do, how we need to fast forward certain things. Are we there? Maybe not yet, because sometimes you have to look within to know if you're doing the right thing. It's not that we're not doing anything right. It's just that sometimes because we're dealing with so many people, so many personalities, is it's difficult to be able to just get the flavor right. And so we're working on that. Hiring is being, of course, as you can see, we're getting 20 to 30 new grads. This past quarter, we had 37 new grads, where I said that we're not doing a new grad program in the fourth quarter because we wanted to make sure that we can get these people to where we need them to be. But part of our hiring is not getting them on board, it's trying to get them through the process.
Yep.
The interviewing, we do walk-in Wednesdays, we do a special day where we do open house and do new grad days, where it's just interviewing them. Oops, sorry. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And so we have those difficulties with the hiring, but at the same time, we try to make it fast. And it's a very innovative program. And so we need to make sure that we all work together. The most important thing that I have realized is we work together as a partner. Yep. HR and nursing, it's a complete partnership. We're married. And so that helps us. When HR says, I need you to interview, that leader is supposed to drop what they're doing and go interview immediately. And that's the way we've set it here. So that helps us.
Great. So you mentioned the importance of nursing and HR working together as partners. You mentioned the speed of hiring. You mentioned open houses and new grad days, and just again, those are all things to open up opportunities and to make things faster. Do you have partnerships with nursing schools as well?
Yes, that has been a great success for us. Not only for the advancement, like I talked about, the advancement in careers, but we also, that's how we bring in our new grads. So we do have local schools around us that we have partnerships with. We also just started a TIPS program, which is the Transition in Practice program. We just started that with one of our schools that we work very closely with. And we are about to onboard 8 candidates for that program. It's going to be our first. And I see some great things happening. We just did an opening with them last week, and the students were part of that. Someone just said, do you have a student nurse program? That's the TEAP program that I'm talking about. Some people call it student nurse. We call it transition into practice, where we get the top nurses. They have to apply to it, and then you have to have a 3.5 and above GPA and good standing with the school. And then we bring them in, and it has to be like within their last semester before they graduate. So we bring them in and do that with them so they can get acclimated. And then once they graduate, they're more than welcome to stay with us.
Okay. Question from earlier from Valerie Moreland. She asked, have your hiring events changed due to the nursing shortage or the high competition in the market? So for example, are there less nurses attending these events, or have you seen any change in the attendance for the?
Actually, no. We've had great success. Even with the walk-ins, because we have special days that we do just walk-ins. And sometimes we can't even keep up with the interviews. We don't want to let people wait, but when you have 5 people walking at the same time, someone's going to have to wait.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to share a little bit about what Incredible Health does next. But the question I'm going to have for you towards the end here, Usrah, is what are the top tips or top pieces of advice you have for the nursing and HR leaders on the call? So we'll have you think on that while we just do a quick review of Incredible Health. Does that sound good?
Very good.
Okay, fantastic. So Incredible Health, we are a software company based in San Francisco, and we operate nationally. Hospitals and health systems, they use our software, our custom matching technology, to hire high quality permanent nurses in less than 20 days. We're used by over 700 hospitals and health systems across the country, including very big systems like HCA and Tenet, large regional systems like Kaiser Permanente and Baylor Scott and White, and lots of academic medical centers too, like USC and Cedars-Sinai. And we're also used by many community hospitals too. And as far as what it is that we do, there's a few unique things about Incredible Health. First is that the employers apply to the nurses instead of the other way around. As you can imagine, the nurses absolutely love that because they create a profile, they sit back and relax, they get interview requests from different hospitals that they match to, and the nurse gets to choose which interviews to accept and which ones to decline. The nurses are also pre-screened and pre-matched algorithmically beforehand. So it's a highly curated and personalized experience for both the nurses and for the hospitals. And so that means if, let's say, a recruiter at Usrah's facility logs in, they don't really want to see 200 nurses. They need to see, the 15 that are the right fit for that facility at that time. And the same thing if you're a highly sought after ICU nurse or OR nurse, you don't want to hear from 100 employers. You want to hear from 4 or 5 that are the best fit for you. And so that's what the matching algorithms achieve. And then finally, we have very robust and detailed data analytics, which nursing leaders and HR leaders love because we're able to benchmark the facility anonymously with their local competition and their national competition. We can share speed data. We can share how well talent is converting from one step to the next. We can share why nurses might be declining. So all of that is to help continue to optimize and improve the hiring process. As far as we have 1 in 4 nurses in the country on our platform, and nurses join us for a whole range of reasons. They join us for free tools and free services. We have free continuing education available for every single nurse in the country, accredited in all 50 states. We have free salary estimators. They get access to career coaches. They also get access to a community built into our apps where they can get advice from each other. So, you know, over 10,000 nurses are joining our platform every single week, and we now have over 800,000 nurses on our platform in the US. I did want to highlight the topic of speed. Usrah earlier mentioned just the importance of how quickly you need to move in your hiring process, because all of us are operating in a competitive environment. The intense competition for nurses is not just in the LA area where Usrah is, but it's all over the country. And so 68% of nurses accept the very first offer they receive, according to our data, and 61% of our nurses accept the very first offer they receive, even if the second or third offer has higher compensation. And so that really speaks to the importance of speed in the hiring process and how quickly hospitals and health systems need to move. In terms of just completing interviews quickly, and getting offers out, ideally the same day, and you know, increasing the number of opportunities that nurses have to engage with the health system as well. Finally, just want to share just a quick case study here. This is for a team that we work with in the LA area, where we were able to reduce the days to fill from 66 days down to 19 days. These are the different steps in the hiring process. Where we had the biggest impact is on time to source. We were able to reduce that from 44 days down to 3 days. We were able to remove days later in the process too, with things like automatically scheduling phone screens and interviews and getting offers out the same day. But ideally, what we want to do is reduce the days to fill dramatically. And that helps reduce costs for the health system too, because it means that they can hire permanent nurses faster and reduce the reliance on travel nurses, which tend to be 2 to 3 times more expensive than their permanent nurses. We're always asked about retention. It's such an important topic for nursing and HR leaders. When nurses are hired through Incredible Health, we only do permanent nurses, and so our retention rate tends to be 15% higher than the hospital's baseline. The reason for that is because the nurse was able to consider multiple opportunities before selecting the offer they ultimately went with. So it's a very well thought out job search process. And also, our nurse network tends to skew more experienced, and experienced nurses tend to have higher retention than those that are earlier in their careers. Finally, just in terms of just how we work together, you know, we are a true partner for the hospital or health systems talent acquisition and nursing team. So this is an example. We work with a Memorial Hermann team in the Houston area. Everyone roughly has the same 8 steps in the hiring process. Incredible Health is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the first 4 steps. We're sourcing, pre-screening, making sure the nurse is actively looking, getting that first phone screen automatically scheduled. And at that point, the in-house talent acquisition team is taking over, completing the phone screens, getting interviews completed, and getting offers out and accepted. So this is a true partnership. Incredible Health does not employ any recruiters. We employ software engineers and data scientists and marketers. We do not employ any recruiters. So the value that we drive is by partnering with an existing in-house talent acquisition team. This is a newer model in talent acquisition, where we want nurse recruiters to also be operating at the top of their skill set, which is engaging with talent and building relationships with hiring managers. These days, things like sourcing and screening can be done automatically using software like Incredible Health, and that allows nurse recruiters to operate at the top of their skill set. All right, we got plenty of time for some Q&A as well. Usrah, I'd love to ask you that question now in terms of just what are the top tips or pieces of advice that you have for the nursing leaders and HR leaders that are on the call.
Number 1, please be open, sincere. Don't shy away from the frontline people. You want to be in touch, you know, always have a pulse on recruitment, retention, and the people that you lead. Secondly, you want to be engaged. You have to know what's happening on the front line. You need to know what their needs are so you're able to support them. And the third one is your flexibility. It's more or less having that open door policy where you leave yourself open where they can reach you, and you're able to be able to. It doesn't mean that you're 24 hours. You just, they can call you anytime, but leave it in a way where you know that they can get in touch with you. They should not be afraid or wonder if my my thoughts, my questions, my concerns are not going to be heard. You always want to make them feel comfortable, feel that, let them have confidence in the organization, in the process, in the system, and be able to know that I can call you at any time. I usually give everyone my number so that they can reach me. I always, of course, with a disclaimer that just allow me to sleep. So not to wake me up at 2 a.m, but does not mean I don't take those calls. I do take those calls if it's an emergency. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me. And I'm very engaged and in touch with I work very closely with my HR team. So we support each other and we're there for the team.
Great. So a question that came in from Deepa about your student nurses or transition to practice nurses. Are they working with the RNs or are they more support for nurses? Like what's their role at the facility when you have them there?
Well, they are with RNs, also in a supportive role because they're student nurses, so they can't be completely hands-on, like independent. They're not independent at all. So they will be working with the RNs and in that supporting role. We want them to understand that in a few months, they're going to be taking their boards. They're going to be on the other side of the line. And these are some of the things, or these are the things that you will be faced with and is expected of you to do. So our goal is to get them to that beginner phase, get them to learn how to sit and crawl before they can stand and start running. And so we're here to give them all the tools they need to get them to be comfortable in their role.
Great. I know there were some questions submitted about Incredible Health. Danny on our team has already shared a website where you can sign up for a consultation. You can also send questions to us at this email, questions@incrediblehealth.com. Okay, Usrah, another question that came in from Jason. Have you included seniority as a part of your approach to callbacks and flexible scheduling?
For the callbacks, we put it in. Seniority does play a part. However, though, we have to consider, because some of our senior nurses don't want to take calls. But if they're the first one that signed up, obviously they're going to get it. We haven't gotten to the point where it's specifically by seniority and stuff like that, because that's something we just started. So we're kind of like working it out and see what works best. Yeah.
All right. Another question that was submitted is, what are your thoughts on virtual nursing? And do you have those experiments and pilots at your facility yet?
We haven't started that yet. Actually, last week I just had that mentioned that to some of our senior leaders. And whilst it's a concept nowadays, it's still in that research phase, I should say. So we don't want to just jump into it. We're looking at it. We're trying to understand it ourselves and see what it all entails and what's in it for all of us. I kind of like it to a certain extent, but I don't know that much about it. So I'm learning it myself and reaching out to people that have been brave enough to embark on that journey and see how much I can get from them to be able to redirect our organization if that's the route we want to go. But good, it's really a good thing. So far, what I've been reading, I've liked it.
Awesome. The question that came in from Julia Tofan is, have you had to improve the morale around scheduling, flexible scheduling and floating, or has it been, pretty well accepted by the organization?
Flexible scheduling is not just something we can pretty much set, because it's something we want to work with our partners with. And so I know someone asked earlier, is this a unionized environment? Yes, it is. So we have to take into consideration everybody else's thoughts and feelings and not just geared to one set of people. So the morale in general is not so much the scheduling. The morale in general is just the work environment, workload. And so those are the things we're trying to improve the most and allowing people to feel comfortable with their schedules.
Okay. I think those were many of the questions. Do you do home health as well, Usrah, at your organization?
We refer to home health, but we don't have our home health yet. We're not there yet where we want to bring in home health as part of the organization that we can manage on our own. I think that's something down the line somewhere, but we don't know where that fits in our future yet. But that idea has come up, yes.
Okay. And then a question came in from Sajad just about your float pools. Is there different criteria for selection for your for float pools, or is it just similar to hiring for your other roles?
Yes, there's different selection for the float pools. So currently what we're doing is, of course, because we just started on that, we started it off and using a lot of travelers in it. And when we started with our own staff is we had it where it's going to be by levels, where you have like an RN2, RN3, RN4 and stuff like that. And then you know that the RN2 can only go to this level of care and so forth and so on. And the RN4 is the nurse that can go to ICU, ED, and all the monitor floors and med surg and stuff like that. Yes, so there's those levels to differentiate how they float and where they go.
Okay. Question came in from Rowena. Have you had any success with employee referral bonuses just to help with hiring?
We've had some, yes, we do have that in place, and we've had some. It's not as great as we would want, but we do have some success with it, yes.
Okay. All right. And then I think those were a lot of the questions that were submitted today. So thank you so much for your time.
I'm glad we had time to answer all of those questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there were quite a few that were submitted. For those that are on the call, this webinar is recorded, so a member of the Incredible Health team will be in touch with the recording. We know that there's many more that registered but weren't able to attend live, and so they'll be receiving it as well. If there are any additional questions you have, please feel free to submit them to questions@incrediblehealth.com. They can be questions for our team or questions for Usrah, and we'll help try to get the answers to you. And then if any interest in hearing more about Incredible Health or signing up for a consultation, my colleague Danny has sent the link in the chat as well. And Usrah, just really wanted to thank you so much for joining our call today and for being a fantastic presenter and for sharing your insights and your experience with this audience that's dealing with a very tough set of problems. Nurse hiring and retention is very difficult to do these days, so we just really appreciate your insights.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I appreciate the invite. And thank you all for listening. Those of you that participated. Have a great day.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.